Welcome to Nerds at Night, episode number 7. I'm Todd.
And I'm non-lethal, and today we have a guest nerd with us today. This is Mitchilled, otherwise just known as Mitch. It's a bit easier. Say hello.
Hi, how's it going?
That's it. That's enough from you. We'll go back to it now.
You can sit.
Alright, I'll crawl back to my cave. Wait a second, I'm in my cave.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Mitch? Just a very brief history about yourself and how you got yourself into gaming and whatnot.
I started gaming at the ripe old age of about 7, I'd say, on the Sega Master System 2, playing hours and hours and hours of Alex Kidd in Miracle World and the always fun Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. Gradually went up through the Sega consoles until Sega died. Never got the Dreamcast. I always feel a little bit sad about that. Maybe I'll buy one.
Hey.
And at the moment, I'm pretty much a hybrid gamer. Like, I'm not a PC or a console gamer, but I have, the Xbox One and the PS4 and my giant gaming rig of Doom for my PC, as well as a gaming laptop. I like to branch out. And I'd say the greatest game of all time is Deus Ex.
Nice, the original one, yeah?
Yes.
Excellent choice. And so, sounds like you're a little bit older than I am and been in gaming a little bit older than me, so now Tully has someone else to mock instead of me.
I'm sitting here and all I can think to myself is, my God, you guys are old.
That's right, we're classic.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, so what are we talking about today, Tully?
We are talking about innovation in gaming. I know, the irony. Adding one or two new features to a game does not a new game make, which is an interesting thing and something that Non-Lethal and I haven't discussed before the show for once. So we should have some interesting opinions here. I'm sure Mitchilled will have some stuff to chime in with. We're going to go through just a couple of games and probably be a bit ranty and all that sort of stuff as we normally are. But I'm going to throw one at you guys. Assassin's Creed is now gone to yearly installments and they've started pulling this nonsense of just adding one or two gimmicks and calling it a new game. What do you make of that?
So are we talking about Unity or just any of the new iterations?
Well, probably any of them. I mean, from my perspective, Assassin's Creed 2 series, every new one of those, they really only added one or two gimmicks, and it's only with every increase in version number, really, that they try and branch out and do something a bit different.
Well, I don't think that with Assassin's Creed in particular, you need to alter the fundamental gameplay. Obviously, with the first, with Assassin's Creed 2, the next two games, Brotherhood and Revelations, were basically expansions. I mean, you can never call them a full new game. They're set in the same time period. They have the same characters. It's basically an expansion. But then when you move on to different time periods, they're basically designing from the ground up new environments, new character animations, new voices, and a full history to go with it. So
Yeah,
don't fix it if it ain't broke, I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, the core gameplay is sort of vital to sort of hold on to, and that's what sort of gets people involved in the franchise. But take for example, like they did the Assassin's Creed 3. You had like a little bit of your boat, your piracy, and your privateering and whatnot. And they were like, "Hey, people seem to like this, and we like it too. Let's make an entire game that really focuses on that sort of thing." And now moving on to like Unity, the new feature they've added in that we know about so far is cooperative gameplay. So and yes, I understand if they're doing a new setting and a new animation and stuff like that's a lot of development time, and yes, it should be a new game. But hypothetically, they could just add in multiplayer gameplay to Black Flag, and it would be like a new feature.
I think Black Flag was the most popular of the series for a reason, and that was probably because of that ship-to-ship combat and that sort of stuff. Basically a whole different mini-game added to that game, and I don't think we're going to see a lot of that in Assassin's Creed Unity, just because, well, they're in France, and, you don't really need to go anywhere else.
That's fair. I think that the problem I have with Black Flag, and I did love the game, is that they moved away from what used to be their core mechanic, which was the planning assassinations and all the cool parkour and diving down to the guy and slicing his throat open, and essentially replaced a lot of that core gameplay with what was a mini game from Assassin's Creed 3.
Yeah, that's my opinion as well.
But it worked. It worked really well. Building up your ship, using those upgrades, and like you get to this point where you just want to sort of fuck around so you can get the upgrades for your ship, and you don't really want to focus on the storyline because, you know, you have so much fun blowing other ships out of the water.
Well, hypothetically, let's say they skipped Black Flag and went straight from 3 to Unity, and they released a separate game like Sid Meier's Pirates in HD, and they made it like Black Flag. Would it still have the same impact if it was not an Assassin's Creed game, just simply that ship combat game?
Well, it makes it kind of one-dimensional. Like, I think that the diversity that Black Flag had was one of the reasons why it was so popular, because you had the hardcore Assassin's Creed fans that could still do their thing, and then people new to the series getting involved more in the ship-to-ship thing, and then diving underwater and the whaling. Like, there's so much to do in that game. It's ridiculous.
I think Mitch has got a bit of a point in the sense that it did work. Like, we could pay it out all we want, but the game sold well and it was fun. It's felt like it was only tangentially an Assassin's Creed game if you did spend all your time doing that ship thing, but then in the context of what we're talking about, does it matter? They added, say it was only one new feature, but it was a huge gameplay shift from the old crawling around the rafters of Venice or wherever, and really sort of breathed a bit of new life in the series. So perhaps we're now ready to go back to climbing around France and saying goodbye to our beloved pirate ships.
Yeah, that's a fair point, yeah. I think, as you said, Black Flag was very popular, and it did add new people into the franchise who didn't like just the parkouring stuff, and you know, piracy is awesome and all that stuff, you know, thanks Pirates of the Caribbean. And now maybe they'll stick around for Unity, and like it'll be a whole new breath of life into the franchise.
I'm sort of a little bit concerned and curious as to how they're going to throw in this this 4-player co-op thing, because like games like Far Cry, I've tried it in the past, and it was a complete diversion from the original story. So are we going to see the exact same story being played out by 4 characters? Like, is your experience going to be the same whether you're playing by yourself or whether you're playing with 3-player co-op or 3 other players? So I guess what I'm saying is it really depends on how big this co-op feature is, how quintessential it is, as to whether or not it's an overhaul or an upgrade.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see if it's more like Brotherhood, where you just have random assassin buddies that can pop in and do all the dirty work for you, or if it's more like GTA 5, for instance, where you, if you're not playing co-op, or if you don't have any friends like me, you can actually jump between different assassins. So you can have guys come up different sides of different buildings and take out guys. So you can sort of, almost like how you plan your heists in GTA 5, and have everyone doing their own job to make
hiring
your
a crew
part.
of assassins.
Yeah, that's right. You just, all you need is your Trevor assassin, and then you've got a game right there.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Like, it takes me back to sort of Rainbow Six. I don't know, Mitchilled, if you remember playing Vegas 2 with us, and in the sort of single player missions, you could settle your guys up around the area and tell them what they're going to do, and then activate everyone on like a go where they all did their thing. So it'd be interesting if they do that, and it is the same story as the single player, and you can just control multiple people, or whether it's like Portal 2, where if you played co-op with a friend, it completely changed who you're playing as and the story.
Well, that's what I'm curious about. I mean, it could. I don't know if you guys have ever played Saints Row 3, Saints Row 4, but the co-op in both of those games was completely the exact same experience you get when you're playing single player. You're just playing with a friend, and that's what I would like to see in Assassin's Creed Unity. So you can sort of have that drop in, drop out co-op, but you're still sharing the same experience.
It'd be interesting on a balance perspective, like if they're designing missions with the co-op in mind, is it going to be ridiculously difficult to do it by yourself? Or on the flip side, are some missions going to be ridiculously easy as soon as you start adding in extra people?
Well, they might also have the Diablo phenomenon, wherein that you, as soon as someone else joins, more enemies spawn, you get surrounded more often, they're better at combat, they're better at countering, etc.
Yeah, fair point. All right, well, let's talk about another series of games which seems like innovation.
Before you do, I need to bring this up. There is another feature that's being added to Assassin's Creed Unity.
Okay.
Have you seen this? You know the wrist blade?
Yeah.
Well, they're adding a wrist crossbow. Isn't that cool?
That's certainly cool.
Sounds like it would be a bitch to reload. You're trying to pull back on the bloody thing. Like a crossbow, you usually need a second device just to cock the bloody thing. You're trying to put that sort of torsion on your wrist.
Yeah, how's it going to be? You're going to like be.
Maybe you have a wrist loader on the other hand.
You're like hanging from the side of a building, shoot a gun, and then you're like, crap, now how do I reload this thing without falling to my doom?
You just clap, and the torsion thing does it as soon as you clap.
Nice. Alright, so let's move on to another series of games that I feel innovation, well, it does happen. It happens in sort of, you get to take one step forward and two steps back. Like, it's sometimes a really big innovation and sometimes just a minor upgrade, and those are just generally any sort of sports games like Madden and FIFA and things like that. Like, especially FIFA, it seems like what they do is upgrade the graphics and the player stats, and in Madden it's a similar experience. They upgrade the player stats and a few gameplay mechanics in regards to like franchise careers and stuff, but otherwise it's all exactly the same core gameplay and how you play.
I kind of disagree with in the Madden thing. It seems to me like every year they do a new Madden, and every year they focus on something different. So it's never a perfect game, and then they go too far to change one thing. Like I think it was Madden 13. They went really overboard with the voice controls, where you could audible at the line, you could change formations just by saying things, but then no one uses Connect. So it was like you've basically introduced a game-changing feature that no one uses. And now in the new one, they're saying that it's going to be completely focused on defense, basically. The tackle animation is going to be bigger. You can control where your body lands and body mass and all that. And it just sort of seems like they're changing what the game is so that they can change it, not so that they can make it better.
I think that's the problem with sports games in general. I can't comment on Madden specifically because I haven't played it, so I'm one of those nerds that doesn't understand sport. But it goes back to what you were saying earlier, Mitch, that why would you change what isn't broken? I mean, a lot of the core mechanics of these games are fine, otherwise they wouldn't even sell. Obviously, they represent the sport relatively accurately as far as you can with 8 buttons on a control pad. But they, as you're saying, if they just focus on improving some of the more finer elements of the game each iteration, and they bring that forward to every new version, they're essentially using the yearly release cycle to work towards eventually being in a perfect game, as long as they're not focusing on pointless crap like voice commands.
Yeah. But they're never going to get a perfect game, are they? Because they're going to be like, oh, well, now we have to change something else to innovate the franchise.
Well, I think using like any sort of sports game as an example, we'll seem to talk about Madden because Mitch and I have some more experience with that one. Like, a lot of the things they add in, like, I feel like player stat updates you can get downloaded to your games, and like some of these features, like they completely changed around franchise careers from like 13 to 14, went back to a previous model which people liked more. A lot of that stuff could maybe go as DLC, and I feel like releasing a new game every year, it should only happen if there's like a massive graphical improvement or something along those lines. Like, the gameplay increases that could go down as either free or paid DLC, maybe it should go that way, and it should only be a new game if there's a massive like engine upgrade.
You advocating microtransactions non-lethal? We talked about this.
Didn't say microtransactions, goddammit.
No, I think that's a good point that Mitch raised just before. It's like, why would you change something for change's sake, just so you can pump out a game and make more money?
Well, that's what companies are for.
I was going to say, I've just answered my own question. Why would I do that?
I think that they think that they're innovating more than they are as well. Because, I mean, especially, I don't know if you played Madden 12 and then play Madden 14, the graphics, like, there is an increase, but it's not enough. I know that a Madden 14 does run at 1080p 60 frames, but I mean, obviously we've got a big jump now because they're innovating for a brand new series of consoles.
Yeah, that's true.
And I suppose that goes the same for Assassin's Creed. They have to build a game designed for a brand new system, which means it has to be bigger, it has to be prettier, it has to have better sound.
It's something in general that we probably should have addressed with Assassin's Creed. I don't understand making a map bigger as adding a feature. It just doesn't seem necessary, especially when some game maps are already so huge that I dread having to explore the whole bloody thing.
I haven't actually. They haven't actually said how big the map's going to be, but like having a look at some of the gameplay videos in it, the level of detail on everything is kind of breathtaking.
Yeah,
Like,
details are definitely what needs to be important in the quote-unquote next gen of consoles and gaming.
Yeah, so I don't really have much sort of else to say on the sports type of games. Does anyone else have any major things? Like my biggest gripe about them is that they could do updated player stats and rankings and add in new players and things just with free automatic downloads when you connect it to the net. So why do they have to release a new game for it?
I'm going to play a grandpa card here. You mentioned FIFA. FIFA was probably the most popular soccer game for, I don't know, like probably about 4 or 5 years. And then Nintendo 64 came out with this nice little game called International Superstar Soccer 64.
Which was amazing.
And then that developed into Pro Evolution Soccer. And yet, like, somehow, like, people who play both games, it seems like people enjoy like PES, Pro Evolution Soccer, more than they enjoy FIFA. But they stick with FIFA for, I don't know, for nostalgia, like loyalty. There's some kind of weird loyalty in there because they're playing an inferior game. And the innovation is more poignant in the Pro Evolution Soccer side of things. Have you guys played those games?
Yeah, I've dabbled in them a little bit. And a lot of the guys, some of my friends and colleagues who I work with, play FIFA exclusively over any other soccer game, and they always buy the new ones. And like they're dedicated fans of FIFA. And yeah, as you say, it's probably just because they're addicted to the franchise. Maybe like as you said, there are alternatives out there that are better, and they're just not experiencing it because they're like got blinkers on showing them this one franchise.
I think it comes down to familiarity. I played FIFA 2007 through 2012 every year, and I only played it for like 5 or 6 hours before I got sick of screaming "Goal!" at the top of my lungs. But I think in terms of that, it just comes down to familiarity. It's a franchise that you're familiar with. It's grown up with you, and you've got a bit of familiarity. You know your way around the controls, you know your way around the gameplay mechanics, and every time, if it's only an evolutionary step forward, you don't have to relearn a lot about the game as you're going forward. So it's just easy to stick with what you know than jump to something new.
Yeah, I suppose the controls are probably different. Gonna go a little bit of a tangent here. What about the Halo series? Have you guys played like much of Halo?
How dare you bring that Xbox crap into this place?
Hey,
no,
say what
like
you want about Xbox. Halo was a fantastic series.
We had this discussion weeks ago about how we shouldn't be angry fanboys and stuff like that. So I'm going to completely renege on that statement and say, I love you, Mitch. Let's talk about Halo.
Yeah, you should invite him over to play Halo so he can get the experience.
I played Halo once, and someone's like, you suck at this. It's like, all I've ever played is Call of Duty. Leave me alone.
Well, I mean, every year they kind of try to release a new Halo. It seems like just because it's a cash cow. But like things like Reach and ODST were effectively pointless. Like you can do without them. You can just play Halo 1, 2, 3, 4, and you get the series. But like they felt the need to release Reach, which was basically 3, with more armor and a different story.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, has there been anything new in a Halo game since Halo 3? Since Halo 2?
Didn't they upgrade Cortana for one of them?
Yeah, she went mental, didn't she, in number 4?
Yeah, she went past her expiry date and went crazy.
That's a feature.
Hey, I wonder if in the new one, Cortana could interact with Cortana on your Microsoft Windows phone.
That's what I was thinking. It's like she went crazy and went to Windows Phone. She must have like got off Android and went to Windows Phone. It's like, wow, I'm mad.
It's the same reason why anyone else upgrades to Windows 8. Hey, they go mental and Choose Windows 8.
But
Right. Go with my start menu across the whole screen.
Yeah.
like Halo is one of those games where I think you're also talking about like your FIFA and stuff, where there's a loyalty to a franchise, and they're just going to keep pumping out games even if there is little to no innovation, because people just keep on buying it.
Oh, and when they do innovate, people hate it. Like when they released that top-down one, what was it called?
Oh, I know what you mean. Like, it was like Halo Wars or something.
Yeah, that was just awful.
What I don't understand, not having played it, is did Reach and ODST at least expand on the universe? Like, it was just more of the same game, but at least, you know,
ODST
almost
was from a different
like...
perspective, because you weren't playing as a Spartan. And Reach was a prequel to the first one, so it was kind of like you got to see where the Spartans came from, and you know, the other Spartans other than Master Chief, which is kind of cool in the lore perspective, but there was nothing new.
Well, that was the question I was going to raise. Is that enough? So we're saying, you know, adding 1 or 2 features does not a new game make, but does adding 1 or 2 new storylines make a new game, even if it's the exact same gameplay?
There's the question, isn't it? How expansive does this new storyline have to be for it to be a new game?
And that's sort of where you can sort of look back at the Assassin's Creed series and go, each new real game, like the 1, 2, 3 in Unity, etc., and Black Flag sort of jumped into a new time frame, and you played as a new character, and so you could justify it as long as it also increased the main storyline, the overarching storyline of the series.
There is no main storyline. That bumble prick of a thing that they tried to say was a storyline is just the worst plot device ever.
Yeah, it was a bit sort of grasping at straws kind of thing. But the same goes for Halo. Every iteration, I mean, the main games, it's the same character. Actually, that's kind of the opposite, isn't it? The main games is the same character doing a different thing, and the side games, the DLC kind of style games, you're playing a completely different character and with a completely different story.
That's a fair point.
That would almost be enough. Not having played them, I think showing something from perhaps a different perspective might add enough, but they would still need to do a little bit to the gameplay to get away with not just calling it DLC.
Alright, let's talk about a game, or a series of games that I think we've all played a lot and we like. Infamous. Now, this is going to be a bag of worms for us, because I think we all enjoy this series, but what I sort of wanted to talk about is, apart from graphical and storyline improvements, like between Infamous 1, 2 and Second Son, which is effectively Infamous 3, the innovation in gameplay, the only real changes was what powers you had. Like from 1 to 2, it was, in addition to the karma system, you also got to choose an additional power, which is a little innovation, but it's really, you could just replay and choose the other one.
You kidding? They added that melee weapon thing so you could wail on dudes.
You could melee number 1, they just made it look like so you're hitting them with a stick instead.
Yeah, they gave you like that huge crowbar in the second one.
It was called the amp.
Yeah,
you gotta be like that with your nerd knowledge.
And then in like Second Son, like you had multiple powers you could switch between, more or less at will during fights eventually.
Yeah.
So those were the innovations within those games. There was a story that they carried on, which was good, but then really the changes between the games was just the powers and how you access them.
How dare you, sir? I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Infamous, the first game, was the greatest game to be released on the PlayStation. Any PlayStation ever. I said it. Come at me, bro.
How very dare you?
The thing I loved about the first one was that it was a little bit dark, a little bit gloomy, and it was, the way they did the sound was so immersive that, you know how when you sort of started getting into more of a combat situation, the music got louder, it got more intense, the drums started coming in more, and it just like kind of sunk you into the moment. And then Assassin's Creed 2 was a little bit too happy for me.
Infamous 2?
Oh, so, yeah, sorry, Infamous 2. Yeah, it was just a little bit too happy. I never actually played all the way through it because it just seemed a bit too, I don't know, a bit too much of a superhero game. I think the original was kind of like, it was fun because you were kind of cursed with these powers. And then Second Son, I played that all the way through. Fantastic game. Kind of went back to the roots. It was a lot more dark. There was, you started losing friends, and spoiler alert, your brother dies, which was sort of sends you off the deep end. Like, you're a smart-ass, back-talking character, and then your whole personality changes when you lose your brother. Like, it just felt more real.
So, yeah, for the games themselves and the lore in them, like, yeah, absolutely, there was changes in them, but like, in terms of gameplay changes, like innovations within the game that actually made them play differently, like how the game looked and felt and was immersive and stuff, it's not really sort of innovation or lack thereof between games. Like, sort of mechanically, what has really changed between the Infamous games?
The innovation I hated was travel. They traveling in the first one, it took you a while. You kind of got to see more of the city. And then in the second one, it was like, we're going to make it easier for you to get around. And then in the third one, it was like, you can travel at the speed of light, just run around, run over buildings, we don't give a fuck.
That's because you essentially became the Flash.
Yeah, the Neon Flash.
That could be a thing. Sorry, anyway, I'll come back to the topic. I think Infamous highlights a difference between a direct sequel and a spiritual sequel, and I think the problem that game companies face is that in a direct sequel, as much as we want them to innovate, I think their hands are a little bit tied by all the people who are going to piss and moan. Like, I didn't like how in Infamous 2 they just brought monsters out of nowhere because they wanted to give you more interesting things to fight other than random humans. And I think they did that almost for the sake of it without a really strong plot device. Whereas in Second Son, they could just do whatever they want because it's 5 years later and the whole world's changed because it can do that.
Yeah, and everyone's a conduit.
That's right. That stuff's just like juice. You just go down to the 7-Eleven and you're like, you know what, I'll have some conduit juice.
Yeah. Like, what
flavor would you like? Concrete?
What was interesting with the Infamous as well, and as you're talking about successes and spiritual successes, with number 2 being a direct sequel to number 1, it was interesting when they first announced the game and the main character, Cole McGrath, looked very different. He actually had like hair and like a different facial shape and stuff when he was first announced. And
he had a different voice actor.
Yeah, and people hated it. And like, they cried out, and then they were like, okay, cool, we see what you're saying. Let's make it the way it's supposed to be.
And he still didn't look like Cole.
But it was a lot closer than what he was.
True.
You guys are focusing on the wrong character on Infamous 1 and 2. The only important characters to those games was Zeke. And then when he wasn't in Second Son, I'm like, this is crap. This is the worst game ever.
The main character, what's his name in Second Son?
Delson Rowe.
Delson Rowe, that's right. He was kind of like the Zeke. He was kind of the smartass and the fun character. And then the other main protagonist, which is your brother, he was kind of more like Cole. He was kind of a little bit more level-headed and just a little bit angry.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, in the originals, Zeke was sort of jealous of Cole's powers and wanted to gain powers for himself, and he was the smartass guy. And in Second Son, the smartass guy is the main character, and he doesn't want powers, and he eventually learns to embrace them for the greater good. But like, when he first discovers he has powers, he's like, holy crap, I'm one of them, no, this is terrible.
For like half a second, and then he's like, hang on, I got superpowers, this is fucking amazing.
That's what I was going to say. It's like, we were just talking about realism before. It'd be like, who does that? It's like, I can shoot smoke from my hands. This is hardcore.
Speaking of shitty powers, smoke, who thought of that?
Probably the guy who wanted to make that fire whip. And they're like, we can't have fire as a power because he'll just torch everything to the ground. And it's like, well, where there's fire, there's smoke. And then everyone in a boardroom laughed and they made that a thing.
That's just, yeah. Actually,
that's how it went down.
In it were any good. You get smoke, you get neon. I mean, neon isn't even a thing. It's like light. Are these light powers? And then you get video, and you're like,
don't even get me started on video.
Is that light? Do I get light powers? Like, yeah, completely.
The only cool thing about video was the way they introduced it. Is you'd be like, oh my god, I can be a giant freaking angel. Oh, only he can do that. This is gay.
Yeah, would it be interesting to see where, if they do another, and they sure will because it's made lots of money, another infamous game, whether they should listen to feedback and do some more traditional powers again, or give the actual options and limit you in what powers you can get, like in number 2, how you had the choice between like sort of smoggy, fiery oil shit and ice, and whether they do another game where they have that choice but ramped up to 11, where it's like a tier of choices, or whether, as Tolly and I have discussed before but not in the podcast, is whether they do an MMO sort of style of Infamous, which I would throw all of my money at.
Sigh.
Now, you turn anything into an MMO that wasn't an MMO before, maybe not Warcraft, and it's a terrible idea. Like, how often has that worked? Knights of the Old Republic turned into the Old Republic, and that was a fantastic game, but no one plays it anymore.
What's that? Someone mentioned Warcraft. Let's talk about that, because that's had all the innovation over the last 10 years, and because we love talking about Warcraft.
Yay, it's our usual horse that we can beat to death.
What are we going to do if Blizzard stops making it? This show's going to have to end.
Well, this kind of, like, illustrates the thing that you were talking about at the start of the podcast, in that they're not making a new game. They're just releasing, DLC expansions, and then sometimes they throw in these like hot fixes. Like halfway through Wrath, no, it was just before Wrath came out, they did that big graphics fix, and then they did it again just before they released Cataclysm. And you go back and you have a look at videos from like classic WoW, and you're like, geez, that looks terrible. And you look at it now and you're like, well, it still looks terrible, but it's a damn sight better than it was.
Yeah,
true. And they're continually evolving it, but they don't seem to be adding many new features. Like, they add new areas to explore, new quests and things like that. But in terms of, fundamental gameplay, the only thing I can truly think of that they really added was the ability to be able to fly around or perhaps use siege weapons.
Yeah, my biggest sort of gripe with World of Warcraft in their innovation is that they're not adding new features. Well, sometimes they are, but they're mostly replacing features. Like, they've had the talent system overhauled like 10 million times, and they're constantly changing class abilities and spells and stuff and removing them in the next expansion. And they're like, the new features they've added in, as you said, were like siege weapons, flying mounts, and like pet battles.
Yeah,
yes. World of Pokemon.
That's awesome.
Love it.
And those are sort of new, like, fun things, and like the tillers as well. Hey, had like your garden and whatnot. Those are okay as like little side things you can do, but like core gameplay, they don't add in much to the core gameplay, except for new classes maybe. But that's just sort of more of the same. It's just they replace features, they upgrade them to a new version instead of just giving us more on top of the core gameplay.
But what they're doing is they're replacing tangential features. So, I mean, it's called World of Warcraft, right? It's all about the fighting. It's all about the combat. And I don't think combat's gotten an overhaul in 10 years.
Yeah, don't fix it if it ain't broke.
It is broke.
There is a lot of tiny features that people don't notice until they remember what it was like leveling up a character from 1 to 60. Like, it took me, my first character from 1 to 60 took 21 days in-game. Now, the quest system is so fluid that you can not only move to one area, from one area to the next without killing an unnecessary guy. You used to have to grind for hours just to get levels. And now it's so seamless, people don't notice the innovation that they've put into the questing system. And how much more fun the questing is, because it's not just go collect this gold and give it to some guy and he'll give you a feather. Do you know what I mean?
I've got nothing for that, because he's actually right, and I think that's horrifying to begin with. But it's an interesting difference between evolutionary gameplay changes and revolutionary gameplay changes, whether they be for better or worse, and how us as gamers sometimes don't notice them.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, until you look back on how bad it was originally.
Get off the show, Mitch. You make me look bad.
Yeah, geez, you're talking us down, man. God, making it terrible. Another sort of series which is similar in the World of Warcraft vein, but then again it's actually completely different, and forget I said that, is when you talk about like the Elder Scrolls series, and sort of specifically like to talk about the evolutions from like Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim, and like more along the lines of Oblivion to Skyrim. Like, everyone like most people I know loved Skyrim, even if they weren't fans of the series. And like apart from the like different area, different lore, graphics upgrade sort of thing, they changed some key areas within Skyrim to make it better. Like they added a new feature, the shouts. They kept all their spells and fighting and stuff, but it made it a different way of earning points, and then they added in all the different skill trees so you could customize them even further instead of just having points in a skill that went up as you used it and you had spells.
I never played Skyrim. I mean, I played it for like 10 minutes and I was like, not a fan.
Oh god, this is going to be the shortest conversation ever because I only played it for about 10 minutes as well.
We both terrible people. You didn't give
We both hate you, non-lethal. Get off.
It was, it looked pretty.
I did play Oblivion fairly significantly, so I can recognise that they did make a lot of changes, which I think Bethesda can be commended for in the sense that they're not just re-releasing Oblivion HD or Morrowind HD because that's what the modding community does. And they actually try doing different things. And I mean, the biggest feature in Skyrim that all I remember hearing about is dragons. You could fight dragons.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, the dragons were a very key part of the game. The combat with the dragons was very intense, and that was part of the whole storyline. And like, that's why I recommend you guys at least don't do any of the side quests. Just smash through the main quest and just get it out because it's very entertaining. And that's what sort of made you the character who you are, is the dragons within the game.
Fair enough.
This conversation is over.
I was talking to someone the other day about Batman Arkham Asylum and the evolutions through Batman Arkham City and now Arkham Origins. And have you guys played those games?
Yes, they were epic.
Hell yeah. And then when you went from Arkham Asylum to Arkham City, they can basically overhauled the combat system. They made everything easier. They made that thing where you could sort of swing and just smash through those walls instead of stopping and painting a little bat sign on it and detonating it. And then when they went back to Origins, they basically took away all of the innovation that they put into City and made it basically Arkham Asylum 2.0.
Well, to be fair, it is a prequel, so you can't really have all the cool new bat technology and bat belts and bat gases and stuff when he's just starting out.
But you should still be able to smash through a wall. Like,
it's like,
you know?
that's right. This is Batman. He could beat lung cancer with a packet of cigarettes. I'm sure he knows how to get through a wall without standing around in front of it for 5 minutes.
Yeah. It seems like they took innovation and went, let's do the opposite of that.
In fairness, it was made by a different company though, wasn't it? So they weren't as familiar with the engine. So they did have a bit of stuffing around to do, and I think they may... I don't know enough about game development. I don't know if they went for the whole prequel excuse to not have to do some of those potentially harder things, or if they decided that was a creative choice, and as Non-Lethal said, just went, well, this was in Batman's early days, you know, he hadn't quite figured out his bat belt or anything like that yet.
Yeah, he didn't even start lifting yet. I think a lot of the innovation they did in Origins, I think, is revolving around the Batmobile, from what I understand.
Well, Arkham Knight is it's being developed by the same guys that did Asylum and City, and that I think that's massively focused. Like, a lot of the innovation is focused around the Batmobile and changes to being able to drive around. Because I'm not that far through Origins yet, but does Origins have the Batmobile?
No, I don't think so. At least not in an interactive sense. You can get around using the Batwing for fast travel and stuff like that, but I don't think it's interactive. I only got about halfway through it because I suck at life.
Yeah, maybe I was thinking about Night instead of Origins, my bad.
This is why we love you, Non-Lethal. You make the rest of us look better by comparison.
Yeah, I love you guys too.
Except for Mitch, he makes me look like crap, you jerk.
I play too many games, and plus, you know, at work, I play video games.
Yeah, you son of a bitch.
So this is why we've given you a fake name to protect your identity.
Yes.
Like, Mitchilled is not his real name. Stop looking through your employee directory. Alright, I think this is where we'll probably wrap up this week's show. I have no idea how long we've been going, folks. I didn't start my timer because I'm a little bit retarded like that. But anyway, as usual, subscribe via iTunes and all the other podcast directories that I put us on and have since forgotten about.
You terrible, terrible person. You can also follow us on the Twitters at Nerds at Night and Facebook at Nerds at Night Community. And yeah, get on YouTube as well, Nerds at Night, where we, as we mentioned last week, we'll be doing some Titan fail recordings to pop up on there so you can all laugh at our inability to shoot people in the face. And yeah, get involved.
Yeah, that's right. If you want to be a part of the show, get in touch, let us know. Otherwise, we're just going to keep bringing Mitch back, and I don't know how many of you want that.
Thanks, I appreciate the love.
It was good to have you on, Mitch. It's nice to have a bit of a three-way dynamic. I was trying to avoid using the word three-way, but anyway, there it is.
Yeah, we welcome you back in the future to have a chat as well. You're welcome back on the show whenever you like.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's been fun.
All right, guys. Yeah, once again, I am non-lethal.
I'm Tully.
And that joke
I'm Mitchilled.
and we'll see you later.
Good night.